All right, here he is back again. Josh Todd, what's going on, man?
What's up? Everything's good, man. Just chilling in at home for a second before we hit the road again, and getting gearing up to drop our 10th record, Volume 10, June 2nd.
I know I can't believe that it's already the 10th Buckcherry album. Did you figure
No,
when you
it's
started the
crazy.
band that you'd get to this point?
I mean, that's what I dreamed about when I was a kid. I wanted to be in one band and make a catalog of music, and right off into the sunset. And that's exactly what's happening. I'm grateful. It's hard to get to this milestone for a lot of bands. It's hard to have longevity in this business. It's so chaotic, and to be here after 24 years out there and have 10 records is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, and the new singles from the album are absolutely incredible. I mean, the band keeps putting out killer records. I thought Hellbound was fucking awesome. I'm sure this
Yes,
one's going to
sir.
be just as good, if not better, just judging off of the three singles that are out. And I would even argue that some of the more recent output is up there with 15, arguably better than some of the albums that I guess came out when most people would expect, would call your heyday. But I would also argue that now is the band's heyday, at least musically speaking. I mean, this is some of the
It
best
is.
music, some of the best rock music out, period. And not too many bands outside of a select few putting out real rock and roll records.
Man, I appreciate you recognizing that. There isn't. You can't even find rock records like this anymore. And it's nice of you to say. We worked really hard on it. We got a good formula going right now, and Hellbound was definitely raised the bar. I felt like that was our best record at that point in time, and this record's definitely up there with it. Yeah, it's me, Stevie, and Marty have a good songwriting chemistry, and the production's great, and we're just hitting on all cylinders. The band is so good right now, and
That's Marty
just
Fredrickson, right?
Marty Fredrickson. Yeah,
And he
I'm
wrote
just riding the wave.
and he wrote some songs that were on 15 as well, right?
He co-wrote "Sorry" with us on 15. Yeah, it's when we first met him, but now we're writing almost entire records, and we're doing it very quickly too. It's really cool.
Well, unfortunately, like what real rock and roll, like we said, it doesn't even get the attention now like it did even 15 years ago. Outside of, I guess if we're talking bands that just sort of adopted like a classic sound, like Dirty Honey or Greta Van Fleet or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But last time you were on a couple of years ago, you brought up a good point, and was we were talking about the Wi-Fi's funeral remix of Crazy Bitch, and
yeah,
you were talking about you always wanted to do a hip hop collab, like Aerosmith and Run DMC back in the day, and you
yeah.
also said that in hip hop is where all of the outlaws are, and rock and roll was sort of built on outlaws and attitudes, and saying fuck you and that kind of stuff just doesn't really happen anymore in that world.
No,
Do you think that?
no.
Do you think that that's why rock is where it is today, not anywhere near the mainstream because it's not as attitude driven as it used to be?
Yeah, I don't think it's just rock is just not dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean like using foul language or saying that kind of stuff. There's just nothing. There's not. You know what I mean? Like there's no one separating the pack. Back in the day, and we used. There were bands that every band kind of had personalities, right? And they all were separate from each other because of that, even though they were in one genre of music, and I can give a good example, like the last decade where there were like rock stars was like the 90s, I mean, look how many amazing frontmen you have. You had Lane Staley and Chris Cornell and Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder and, Zach De La Roca, and all these guys were just like all in a league on their own. And every one of those bands was different. So when you heard them, you knew it was them. And I don't know, since like 2000, it hasn't been like that on rock radio. You listen to any kind of new rock radio, and it sounds like, to me, this is just my opinion, it just sounds like one consecutive band for like 45 minutes, and you don't know who anyone is. And you know what I mean? And you don't know anybody's name, and there's no guitar heroes, and there's no frontman, and the lyrics, you're just, I don't know. It's kind of, in my opinion, like G rated. I don't like feel like anybody's like connecting with their audience in an honest way. I don't know. Maybe they are, but uh, I think the last band to really do that was Rage Against the Machine. I really liked them a lot. I wish they put out a lot more records, but they don't.
Well, yeah, and my fiance, for example, she's always, oh, I found this band and I like them. I found that band. It's a lot of the bands that you hear, on like Octane or something, and no disrespect to them, but it really is like 20 songs from the same band over and over, and they all use very similar sounds, and there are no real rock stars anymore outside of maybe a select few bands like Ghost or something, Tobias Forge or whatever, and a few guys like that. But when it comes to Buckcherry, and it's been this way forever. I mean, your voice is become so iconic, and there's really no one else out there that sounds like you. And Buckcherry is I mean, seriously, a phenomenal band, and these records just keep getting fucking better and better, man.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think that the old rock records, they had like ballads and mid tempos and rockers, and we've always kind of carried on that tradition throughout our records, as well. And
it's like a ride. It takes you on a ride.
Yeah, it takes you, you got to have dynamics, so you're not just one speed all the time. At least for me, I like that, so I think that's part of our charm, and definitely my voice is when you hear it, you know who it is, and that works for us and against us at times, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we've been able to go out there and kind of carve our own path. We have a really good fan base that continues to come out and see us, all the time.
I want to talk about Slamhound for a minute, which if you don't know is the band you were in before Buckcherry. And I was watching footage of, I think the song was Cult of Rebellion. I think it was maybe from a show you were opening for Love Hate, I think. And somebody had, for one, the song was great, but somebody had left a comment on the video that they were convinced that Slamhound was essentially the answer to hard rock coming back after the grunge takeover, in the early 90s. Is there any truth to that? Or was this sort of like a grunge protest? Or was that just the kind of music that you wanted to play?
No, man. Slamhound was hell on wheels. I was very young. I moved to Hollywood from Orange County when I was 19, and I got in that band, and we became pretty popular in a very short period of time in Hollywood, which was, at that time, it was still pretty crazy on the Strip. You'd go promote for your show. You couldn't even see the sidewalk. There were so many flyers from like the Whiskey all the way to the Rainbow, Yeah. So there was a lot of competition and stuff. And I think we got on the cover of Rock City News after like 6 months, of being together. So it was pretty crazy. And a lot of things happened, and we were really a handful, that band, we were really fucked up, but yeah, it was a good time for a little while, and then it just kind of imploded. I mean, I was in that band for I think 4 years or 5 years, and we got to a place where we almost got signed by Atlantic, and then all these changes took place at Atlantic, and we got lost in the shuffle, and then we got signed by a independent label, Skydoor Records, and then we made our record Chaos Personified, and it was just about to drop, and all the backing on the label got pulled, and that was it. The record just never got released, and then we imploded. We broke up, so that was the history of that band. But there was something very special about that band at one point. But if it would have happened, if it would have been successful, we'd probably all be dead.
Wow,
I'm serious. I'm dead serious.
I guess it's probably for the best that it didn't. But why make the decision to just move on from it was it just such like a crushing blow when the funding got pulled, or was it just like, it's just time?
Well, to move on the bass player left. He left, and then it was just us three, and then I think eventually the drummer left. So the band just kind of fizzled, and that was it. I'd had enough. I was waiting, and it was just time. It was just time. You could just feel like it was time to move on.
And then it was like right around that same time, that's when you met Keith and started Buckcherry then, right?
No, right around that time. At that time, I was broke, just hustling, and I was just newly getting sober too, So all that was happening. So for a year, I was getting cleaned up. I hadn't met Keith yet. I borrowed some money from my mom. I bought a 4-track recording machine and a drum machine and a 4-track, and I just was recording demos in my room. And then yeah, I started just playing some demos for people, and then I was getting tattooed at that time, and Kevin Quinn, who tattooed me, also was tattooing Keith, and it was like right across the street from where Keith worked, and that's how I met him. And we just got together and we started writing on that 4-track together. We just to see if we had any chemistry or whatever, writing chemistry.
Well, and speaking of sobriety, I think last time I talked to you, it was like 26 years or something. So now we're what, 28 years or so that you've been
28 years.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations on that. That's really incredible.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Being the only original member of Buckcherry left, how does the band operate? Does everyone sort of look to you as the leader, or since Stevie's been there, is it kind of you two, or now is it, is it still maintain the band essence, all for one for all type of vibe?
Everybody knows their place, and we all just kind of work together. There's no we're not like giving each other titles or anything like that. We're just, everybody is in a good place, and we're all older guys that have been in the game for a while. So, we're all in it to win it, and everybody is together, focused on the same thing, which got lost a while back, So it's nice. It's nice to be in this situation right now. Has been a lot of fun, and everybody trusts everyone as far as like when we say we want to do something, we see it all the way through for everyone, and that's been the great part of all this.
Obviously there's a lot going on in the Buckcherry world right now, but the last time we spoke, you'd briefly brought up a potential concept album for Josh Todd and the Conflict. Is that ever going to come out, or is there anything new with that, or is that just kind of on hold right now?
Yeah, there would have to be like a big demand for the Conflict, for us to do another record. But I mean, I would be open to that if we had like a big tour or something, that was calling for it. But at the moment there just isn't, so we'll just see what happens. The great thing is that we could do one whenever we needed to, if the opportunity presented itself.
I want to talk about your acting career for a minute. Last time you were on, you told this fantastic story about being on Australia and meeting Val Kilmer, because I think his girlfriend at that time was like a big fan. And so he came out to the show. Then a few months later, he calls you up, and you end up getting in the movie, The Salton Sea.
Yes.
With him. And I think you played a character, Big Bill, and Danny Trejo was in it. And it was this whole thing, which kind of got you started in some other roles.
Yes.
How I didn't ask last time, but how was it working with Val?
That was amazing. He was the first guy I met. I hadn't even met the director. He just hit me up. Like, I think I told you, and I met him at the Chateau Marmont, and just, he had, we were having drinks. I mean, I didn't have a drink. I had like a Coke, and he was like, I don't know if he was having a drink, but we were just chatting, and he was just telling me about the movie. And I was like, it's really interesting. And I think he was getting my take on drug addiction and what that's all about. I think he was doing his due diligence as an actor. He was trying to kind of, he was doing all his research for himself for his role. Honestly, I think that's what was going on. And so I talked to him about drug addiction and alcoholism and sobriety. And we talked about that. And I said, hey, I'd love to read the script. I read a lot of books, and it would be cool to read it. And so then they sent me the script, and then it started kind of unfolding from there. But during that time period, I hung out with him a lot on the set and off the set. It was a very cool period.
Did you stay in touch with him at all after that, or was that kind of the end of it?
No, he's a very big movie star, and I lost sight of that because I was hanging out with him so much. Um, but occasionally when we would go out, I went to like the Vanity Fair party with him, and it was nuts, like because I was hanging out with him, I got into the Vanity Fair party, or it wasn't the Vanity Fair party. It was, who was, the head guy at Maverick Records, Guy Osiri. It was his party, and Val got into it, and he got me into it, and my girlfriend at the time, and we went there, and it was nuts. Like I got to dance with like Diana Ross, and like,
Wow.
when I went to the bathroom, like there was a little waiting room, and Faye Dunaway came in, and I was like, wow, this is insane, And
Yeah.
Shirley MacLaine was there, and it was a very amazing time, So and I did that a lot. And then he and we would like go to the Viper Room together and just kind of hang out in the like. And he wanted to just kind of observe the nightlife and talk to me and like kind of marinate on this role. I guess he was just getting into character. It was really interesting to see his process, and to be there. And then after the movie, he just kind of moved on, and it wasn't like we had any kind of falling out, but just didn't hang out that much after that.
It's crazy and really unfortunate, what happened to him. I don't even think he can speak anymore.
Yeah, I don't even know like the whole history of it. I guess he got throat cancer or something.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's got one of those like machine things that help him talk or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
it,
I really liked him, and I hope he's doing okay.
well, following that movie, you did a couple of other projects with the director, I think DJ Caruso. I think you did
Yeah.
like was something an episode of the Shield, and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Is that something you still want to pursue as acting, or are you just kind of all Buckcherry right now? Or
I mean, DJ is such a great guy. He's such a great guy. I really love him. Um, like I said, my first audition was with DJ and Val Kilmer in the room. It was pretty nerve wracking. And, after that, he had me back on all those films, and thank God for that, because I don't even think I had an agent at that time. And so it was nice to be able to go into those situations with a guy who really trusted me, who's doing big things, and to this day, he follows me on Instagram, and we'll have some back and forth occasionally. I would love to be in another movie, but it's just I've been so busy musically. I just I don't know. It's like I had this window where it was all happening for a while, and then just kind of fizzled out. But it's I haven't been actively pursuing an agent or anything like that, but I probably should.
yeah, 100%. But obviously, like I said, a lot going on, including another leg of the of a co-headline tour with Skid Row, which
Yeah.
which is great. And their new singer is fantastic. There for a while, it sort of felt like that
Yeah.
band was just kind of spinning their wheels, and then they get this new guy, and holy fuck, I mean, that guy can sing.
Yeah. He's not only can he sing, he's a really nice person. And it's been really fun being out with him. And because, you know, musicians and singers don't really hang out that much, so occasionally I would, hang out with him, just at the club, or I'd see him and we would chat a little bit. And he's just a real sweet guy, really nice guy, and super talented.
Yeah, and brings a whole new energy to the band. I thought that last album they put out, "The Gang's All Here," was really really fucking good. I mean, some of those songs
Yeah.
were up there with some of the box stuff. But how is it touring with legacy acts like that? I mean, I guess at this point it's been so long with Buckcherry around that Buckcherry's sort of a legacy band at this point. But I guess in other words, I remember hearing a while ago Motley Crue at one point said that they purposely avoided touring with their peers from the, bands like Night Ranger and Slaughter and all that kind of stuff, because they didn't want to be, I guess, lumped in with them. So, you know what I mean? How is it touring with bands like that as opposed to, doing something with, some more like active rock bands?
Yeah. Every now and again, a package just makes sense. It's the right package at the right time. And the Skid Row thing was just that, and it's selling well. And that's why, it's just the right time to do it, and so I never want to like close the door on any opportunity. You know what I mean? I think that, sometimes tours will come up and you'll think about like maybe a certain package, and you may decline it for certain reasons, where you're at or where you're going, or the plan doesn't work out, or but I'm open to everything as long as it makes sense, and so is our management and everything. We just need to figure it out. But right now, the Skid Row thing presented itself, and it's just a good package. It works, and our fans and their fans enjoy it. So, as long as that's going on, we do more. Like we started with one leg, and that one leg did really well. So we did 2 and 3 legs, a leg of tours. So that would be collectively 3 months, of touring with them. So we got the second leg coming up, and then we'll take a little break and then do the third leg. And that should be it with them, I think.
Well, and I guess in a way, it almost makes more sense for Buckcherry to do a package with a band like that, as opposed to, I guess somebody else from like the 2000s, like Puddle of Mud or something, because but in a way, Buckcherry sort of carries the torch for some of those bands like Skid Row and things like that when all those bands were gone, and then here comes Buckcherry with fucking Lit Up, and you know what I mean? A totally different vibe from, even when you listen to the 15 album versus when was that? That was what, 05, 06, something like that. And then you listen to some of the other bands around that time, and it's a totally different vibe, and avoided the whole active rock thing and just stayed true rock and roll.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because a lot of times we get lumped in with all those 80s rock bands, and it's like, wait a second, we came out a decade later.
Yeah.
Our first record was in 1999, and I think people forget that just because we're a traditional rock band, so we get lumped in with that, and that's fine, whatever. We can do shows we've done shows with, AC/DC and Aerosmith, and and then we can do a festival gig with Deep Purple and Slipknot, and you know what I mean? We can fit into everything, and we can do like an active rock festival and go do that. I mean, it's like we've done all of that, so whatever.
Do you ever feel like, since you do get lumped in with those bands, do you ever feel like the band came out like 15 years too late? Like if Buckcherry would have been around in the 80s, like the band would just be, right up there, with Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and all that kind of stuff?
I say that all the time. I'm like, fuck, I talked to Marty about that. I'm like, if this band would have been happening in the 80s, we would have been multi-millionaires right now, like it would have been ridiculous. And it is what it is. You can't like look back, but I mean, I think about that all the time for sure.
Well, a couple quick things before we wrap it up. One, a few months ago, I came across a very interesting Buckcherry cover, and didn't know if you knew about it, and if you did, what your thoughts were. I guess I'm going to have to bleep this out, but the band is called Anal Cunt, and they did a cover of Whiskey in the Morning. Are you familiar with this?
No, that's great. I love that name. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
is it good?
I don't know. I think let's see if you can hear this. I'll play you a few seconds of it. Can you?
Yeah, let me hear this. I gotta hear this.
Can you hear this? Okay.
It's not that loud.
Can you hear anything? Oh man, it's not working. But yeah, if you just
you have it on your phone, just hold your phone like close to the mic.
Well, everything's connected to the computer, and I cut the audio, but it's a grindcore, band, hence the name. It was interesting, and typically it's like, if you're not, I'm not really into that kind of stuff, but and a lot of it's just like, man, I don't even know what the fuck's going on. But if you listen to it and then listen to your Whiskey in the Morning, I mean, you can definitely hear the similarities, but it's interesting. It's definitely worth checking out.
I'll search it up. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, just the name alone of the band and doing Whiskey in the Morning, sounds like it could be fun. So I want to check it out.
Yeah, 100%. A few other quick things. Talking about Crazy Bitch real quick, obviously, and if you haven't already seen it, go check out the last time Josh was on. We talked about when you called your mom and recorded the lyrics or whatever, so you didn't forget them, which is a great story. But I'm sure you've been asked this a million times, but I've seen so many conflicting things. Was Crazy Bitch inspired by the Paris Hilton sex tape?
No, that was just going on at the time, you know. I mean, it sparked an idea in my head, and then I just started reminiscing about my own life, and when I was in high school, and you know, just hooking up with crazy chicks, and girls that were like really fun, and and the physical department, but they weren't really good girlfriends, and that was just kind of it. And I just started singing the chorus. But yeah, the Paris Hilton sex tapes was in there. I was just like, I just thought, I mean, I'm driving in my car, I'm like, it is insane how somebody can like start, because it wasn't just her, it was like Kim Kardashian and her, and the Pamela Anderson and Tommy thing, and like all these celebrities were putting out sex tapes around that time. So it was just funny to me.
Given the current social climate, do you think that song could be released today and be as well received as it was at that time?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's funny. You can put out a song like WAP. I don't know if they call it WAP or whatever, the Cardi B song, and talk about your wet ass, what, and then. But if a rock band was to do that, oh my God, there's no way.
Yeah, that'd be
it's so funny how we are so selective on what we can say and what genre of music, But no, I don't think it would go over well at all. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had a few years ago, I was talking to Styx Sidenia from Steel Panther, and
right.
It's funny because obviously that band is excessively over the top with the vulgarity, and and it's of course it's not a serious band. I mean, it's more of a joke type of thing. But right. He brought up a good point in that he said if things are kind of like a pendulum, and right now it's all the way to one side, and hopefully it kind of evens itself back out, because things are super. I don't even know the word, super censored, I guess, in some ways. But like you said, then you got that WAP song, and it's, it was like the biggest song for a long time. It was all over the place. But you're absolutely right. If Buckcherry did it, it would be
we'd be crucified.
Yeah. A band of white men doing that song would be terrible,
Any song, like, not just that. I mean, but any song with that kind of subject matter would be brutal.
100%.
And so whatever, it is what it is. I mean, it's a very strange time, and I don't know if it's all a good thing. We'll see.
Well, the last thing I want to ask you, I told myself the last time I talked to you, I'm not going to ask this question, but there's so many different stories out there, and I just want to know the name Buckcherry. I've heard that there was you guys had a friend at the time who was a drag queen who went by that name, and that's where you got it from. Obviously, the whole Chuck Berry anagram or whatever it's called. What is the real story behind the name?
It's both of those. That happened in clubs when we were originally called Sparrow. Right. That was the name of Buckcherry, and we couldn't use it because there was a Christian rock label named that. They had the copyright, and that's fine. I'm glad. Looking back, but there was a guy, girl, whatever gender you want to call him. His name was Buckcherry, but and he would bump cigarettes off Keith, and then cut to, we were making our first record, and we were playing the name game because we had to change our name, and it was just turning into be a nightmare. We couldn't decide on anything, and Keith was reading a book on Chuck Berry's life, and he had a quote in there that said, record labels will try to make you do all kinds of things you don't want to do, like turn your name upside down, like Buckcherry. And we were like, wow, there it is again, and we just wanted a name that was like hooky and something that you could remember. And and so we just went with it.
Wow.
That's it. That's the history.
Well, the new album, Volume 10, obviously the 10th album comes out June 2nd, I believe, right?
Yeah, it comes out June 2nd, and it's a really great record from beginning to end, and you can pre-order it right now and already get like 3 songs or 4 songs. And yeah, it's super great.
Well,
I can't wait for it to drop.
Jesus, you got fucking 200 shows coming up this year, it looks like. So I'm
Yeah.
sure no matter where you are, you guys are going to be in their town.
Yeah, we tour. That's what we do. We put out a record and we tour on it.
Well, Josh, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, and we'll do it again sometime.
Thanks for having me, man. Great interview. Appreciate it.